Power apps now more powerful for hackers. OpenAI says, I know you are, but what am I? And I'm too sexy for this Reddit. These stories and much more on today's episode of MSP Dispatch.
Build the Impossible at CompTIA ChannelCon 2023, running August 1st through the 3rd at the Venetian Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. Join other technology innovators and peers to solve problems and create new opportunities in 3 days of learning, collaboration, and transforming your business and career. Speakers include Eric Anthony, Aaron Chernin, Vince Chrysler, Bob Coppage, and ChannelCon's 2023 keynote speaker, Mick Ebeling. Be inspired, build the impossible. This $1,200 value is yours at no cost when you register with promo code SBOIT23 or scan the QR code on your screen.
Good morning and welcome to the July 18th episode of MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. I'm Ray Orsini, joined by my co-host, not as always, Mr. Phil Buck. How you doing, Phil?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me. This is my MSP Dispatch hat trick now. I had episode with Matt, a couple of episodes with Tony. Now I'm on the show with the powerhouse Ray. It's my hat trick.
You know, and looking back on it, I mean, that's an awesome set of accomplishments. But looking back on it also, we probably should have done a bunch of AI stories since you are the AI guru at MMN with your AI roundup that comes up every week. Best 15 minutes of my week, I'll be honest. It's the
nice.
It's because I'm so involved in all the day-to-day tech stuff that, you know, and talking with MSPs, and it's always PSA and RMMs and blah, blah. So like, this is not completely MSP centric. Like, it's just really cool stuff that's happening in the world. So it's a nice little break. It's a little respite from the MSP news.
I love that. And I appreciate you saying that. It's a pleasure to get to do it for the MSP Media Network. But Simon was looking out for us. He threw me a couple bones with some AI stories today. So
I can't wait. I need all the entertainment, because have you seen the thing with the writer strike? I mean,
I have.
That's kind of nuts. So we got the writer strike going on, which absolutely, you know, I don't think I've seen anybody other than the studio saying that they disagree with the with the actors or the writers that are striking, and the actors are joining in with it. But this writer strike's been going on for a few months at this point. And besides, you know, fair wages, besides asking for royalties, one of the big points was not using AI, using their likenesses in AI, because when they use their likenesses, they weren't getting compensated.
Yes.
And which is one of the episodes of Black Mirror too, which is kind of cool. But honestly, I feel for them. But the real thing that hurts, Stranger Things not coming out till 2027. We got whatchamacallit. You have Mortal Kombat 2, Venom 3. Honestly, Mortal Kombat 2 could probably, and Venom 3 can wait. I couldn't care less about those. But you know,
Deadpool 3 is now delayed. I mean,
man.
I'm actually a little bit relieved, because I've heard the writer strike was it put a restriction on Ryan Reynolds. He couldn't ad lib because that's considered writing. So now that the whole thing's on hold, maybe when they resolve it, he can actually do a little bit of improvising.
See, now I'm gonna have to go back and see if Deadpool has writer's credits for Ryan Reynolds. I mean, I know he, you know, had a big hand in the script and everything else, but I wonder if he has those writer credits. But I want to hear from the MSPs. Which one are you, you know, bummed about? Wednesday is not coming back for till 2025. Stranger Things is probably the biggest one, if not whatchamacallit, Avatar. So I forgot which actress it was in Avatar. She was saying it's going to be a 20-year difference from when she did the first one to doing this one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the poor Stranger Things kids, they're going to be, you know, 25 or something by the time the show comes back. It's not even
most of them will be in their 30s or almost 30. How insane is that? But we're not here for Avatar or Stranger Things. Maybe we're here for the Upside Down. But what do you say we get into the news?
Let's get into the news.
In my first top story, in security, rogue Azure AD guests can steal data via Power Apps. Story suggested by David Suspinar on Discord. In an article written by Eric Chikowski on Dark Reading, She writes, guest accounts in Azure AD, otherwise known as Entra or AAD, pose a significant risk to organizations due to default settings and promiscuous connections within Microsoft's Power Apps. Researcher Michael Bargery of Zenity is going to present his findings at Black Hat USA, revealing that guests can exploit undocumented APIs to gain access to sensitive resources like corporate SQL servers, SharePoint sites, and Key Vault secrets. Additionally, they can create and control internal business applications to laterally move within the organization. The process involves manipulating guest accounts, settings, and exploiting Power Apps' shared connections. While Microsoft has implemented protections like Power Platform DLP controls, Bargery will demonstrate how these can be bypassed to access and extract data. He emphasizes the need for organizations to understand the extent, access, and implement measures to detect and limit the risks with oversharing. During the presentation, Bargery also plans to introduce Power Guest, an auditing tool designed to assist in comprehending the actual extent of guest access within Azure AD tenants so that organizations can gain valuable insights into the scope of guest accounts and their potential risks. Phil, that all sounds really scary, right? Like that sounds like, ooh, we can get all your data. Here's the thing. Microsoft's own documentation, which is listed in another article, I'll make sure we include in the show notes, specifically calls out, don't use email as your identifier. It says use all these other things. And the whole basis for this attack is people not following the docs. So while yes, it exists, it's the equivalent of I left my doors unlocked and somebody got in. You know what I mean? So as a consumer, right? Because we're going to be fair. You're not an IT person. You're not you're not techie, but you're a consumer of this. So when you hear this kind of article, does that scare the shit out of you?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the article ahead of the show, because as you said, I'm not the techie person. My go-to when you do the classic call to the co-host was going to be, in the words of the famous Michael Scott, explain this to me like I'm 5 years old. But you did exactly that, which it sounds like it's just a classic case of read the Dolphin manual, right? Like, don't use the email is in the documentation here. So yeah, is this just clickbait? Is scaring us?
I don't get it. It's this whole thing of trying to make sure I get it. They found and it is a real security risk for those apps that didn't have didn't follow the documentation and did their own thing and used email, which is the easy thing. And that's just standard practice in any development. Don't use the email as a unique identifier. And I'll give a quick tip on how you can figure this out. Go to a website, change your I did this when I moved from Google to 365. My Google email was ray@orsinit.com and my Microsoft 365 ray@oit.co, and plenty of sites I had Google sign on, plenty of them. I mean, probably hundreds or thousands. And as I was going and updating my site, I would log out and I'd log in with for the ones I had Google, I'd change my email address, and if I was able to log in again after changing my email address using Google, I knew they weren't using my email identifier, right? But if there were some, I'm not going to name names, but there were some that really shouldn't be security risks. There were some that when I went to log in, there's like, that's not the email associated with your account, and they wouldn't let me log in, which means they were using the email identifier. The one good thing is it's identifying to people, it's calling out bad actors, not the hackers. It's calling out bad devs, right?
Right.
I mean, does that give you a little comfort maybe as a consumer of this stuff?
It does, because I was wondering, what is the takeaway? What should I do? But obviously I should call up my MSP and ask, hey, is this happening on any of my accounts?
Yeah. And this is one of those cool things. If you haven't encountered Power Apps before, it's Microsoft's low code, no code solution to building full applications. Okay. So like you and I are working on stuff with Zapier and other automation tools and Roost. This is literally build your form, build your entries, what kind of data you're going to accept, but you don't have to do it. You can do it programmatically, but you don't have to. So this is something that MSPs, I would think, are using for their clients. And if you are, make sure you're not using email identifiers.
I was about to say, hopefully our audience is not any of the folks using email identifiers.
Yeah, hopefully. But for now, you got some activity on the FTC front you want to talk with us about?
I do. In our second story for today from the business segment of the show, from TechCrunch by Devin Coldaway, FTC reportedly looking into OpenAI over reputational harm caused by ChatGPT. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission is reportedly in the initial stages of an investigation into OpenAI over potential false, misleading, disparaging, or harmful statements made by its AI system, ChatGPT. This development comes months after the FTC established a new Office of Technology to scrutinize snake oil in the tech sector. The regulator had also warned companies about making claims around AI technologies, stating that they are subject to the same truth requirements as any other entity. The existence of this kind of investigation usually implies that a formal complaint or lawsuit has been brought to the FTC's attention, suggesting potential regulatory violations. One likely trigger for the FTC's investigation into OpenAI could be a recent lawsuit in which an Australian mayor complained that ChatGPT had falsely accused him of bribery and imprisonment, among other things. If proven, such activities by an AI could amount to defamation, libel, or simply reputational damage, as referred to in the FTC's letter to the OpenAI. The technical aspects of the case make it complex, as it raises questions about whether AI actions can be classified as publishing, speech, or even private communication, which are legal definitions that would have to be established in this context. So, Ray, this has kind of been an ongoing theme of AI Roundup, that we don't really know how to classify so much of what's going on with generative AI. They are leaning heavily on the fair use clause to get away with so many things. But I like the last point of this article. It brings up, how do you classify what these generations from AI are? Is it a private message? What is your takeaway when you're using ChatGPT? What do you consider that?
I worry about this stuff because I was listening to, I forget if it was NPR, if it was something else on the way to work today. And they were talking about how OpenAI accounts had been leaked. And the reason this is scary is because for those using OpenAI or ChatGPT to create code or create, how do I connect this application to this application? If you're giving it credentials, it remembers everything.
Yeah.
So that makes it very, very dangerous, which is why a lot of these companies have put in policies as to how it can and cannot be used. Now, whether they're doing it from an ethical perspective or doing it from a CYA perspective is relevant. The takeaway is the same. The corporations are creating these policies. It seems like creators, Hollywood is the perfect example, right? It's the writer's strike that we're talking about. It seems they're taking a lot more liberties than the average Fortune 500. And I don't know. I mean, yes, I understand if I go to a lecture, if I learn something from AI Roundup, right? And I take that and I turn it into my own work, or even if I just share it with somebody else, I'm taking what I learned from you, but I'm doing it in my words. That falls into fair use, right? If I showed
Right.
AI Roundup, but I gave my commentary, that falls into fair use. If I modify your stuff a little bit before presenting, falls into fair use. So if you want to get into the black and white, yeah, it falls in those things. But how much is too much, right? Like, it's like that. We go back and forth. Let's play part of a song on Tech Bar. And how much can we play? Because there's no definite, you can only play 30 seconds. That rule doesn't exist.
Right.
Common practice, yes, but the rule is not written anywhere. So I just wonder how big this gray area can get. I mean, you're the expert. What's your take on this stuff?
I think the gray area is enormous right now. And that's why I think it's actually a really fun time to live with this AI revolution going on, is because a year or two from now, things people are getting away with these generative AI engines, it's not going to work anymore. They are constantly being called out. I mean, lawsuits. The past 2 weeks, we've just seen lawsuit after lawsuit. And I am really curious to see where, regulators come down on the fair use clause. But I'm actually just more interested to see what's happening with these private cases where people are bringing up, hey, it's been clear you used my something to train this model, and we don't think that's okay. Nobody has really gotten an answer to that question yet, right? Like, is it transformative or not?
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I get a little excited about it because one of the things I lament is my daughter, my 24-year-old daughter, my 10-year-old son. They're never going to be in the, let's do it for dispatch, dolphin around and find out. I know you have to edit this stuff later, so I'm trying to be nice about it. So they are they didn't get to experience the dolphin around and find out portion of the internet, right? When we were trying to see what we could get away with, I mean, how many credit card generators were out there freely available so you could get another 50 hours of AOL online? Not that I would ever do that or condone it, but all this stuff was out there, and we were literally figuring stuff out as we went because Google wasn't there. Alta Vista wasn't the best. Ask Jeeves was absolutely inadequate. So, and that even before that, before those things existed. So this ChatGPT now is this generation's new information superhighway, right?
Yes.
And I love that. This is the wild, wild west of AI, of technology again. And I'll be honest, it invigorates me a little bit. I don't know, good, bad, or otherwise. This may turn into Judgment Day, it's Skynet, whatever. But I want to see what happens, in the famous words of Mitch Hedberg, do whatever will be the best story.
Well, another thing came up, Ray, that I wanted to bring up. Speaking of dolphining around and finding out, so there's some finding out going on for Reddit still, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there is. In our third top story in the community section, one of Reddit's biggest communities is suggesting users move to Discord, written by Jay Peters on The Verge. As part of the ongoing Reddit protests, the popular subreddit r male fashion advice, with over 5 million subscribers, has gone private and is directing users to congregate on Discord and Substack instead. The subreddit's Discord channel allows community members to engage in fashion-related discussions, while the Substack platform hosts various guides that were previously available on the subreddit. The move to Discord has been embraced by the community due to better self-moderation and higher ratio of existing regulars to new participants. The Substack is primarily used for transferring guides and maintaining formatting. Though Discord and Substack have smaller user bases, our male fashion advice remains private, and this move has not been well received by Reddit. The subreddit's moderators recently received a message from Reddit admin warning that if the community remains closed, they will be replaced. The message requested the team to outline their plans for actively moderating the subreddit within the next 3 days, and failure to comply would result in the removal of their moderator status and the formation of a new moderator team. Despite the warning, the current moderation team intends to stay until they are removed. Meanwhile, other subreddits continue their protests in different ways, such as going private or seeking alternative platforms. All right, Phil, so as somebody that actively engages in online communities, I mean, you have to for AI Roundup and plus, your other personal endeavors and business endeavors. My thing is, does it matter what the moderators, like if you're a user of that sub with 5 million active participants, do you care if Reddit takes away the moderators and installs their own team, or are you following the moderators? Like, where's the line for you?
I think there is a significant possibility that the moderators would matter. I mean, if it is a user created forum, which so much of Reddit is, it seems really strange to me that the topmost aspect of the organization would come in and clean house and say, hey, this community that you've created is so important to our business model. If you're not going to keep it standing, we're going to just, you can go and we'll pull in somebody else. I mean, no, I may not have a connection to those people necessarily, but if it happened to a community where, you run, you're a mod of our MSP. If I were to hear, hey, you're getting kicked out, I mean, that would probably matter to me,
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm looking at our Reddit stats for our MSP, and you can see very clearly there's a spike. There's a spike in new people, and look at the timeline. End of June, right? Now it did drop off as far as new subscribers, but look at the unsubscribes. 9. These are not people saying I'm going to leave Reddit because I don't like the way this is going. These are people saying I want my information where I want to get it from.
Yeah, definitely.
And as a moderator, I'm perfectly, I can't speak for the other moderators of the sub, but I can tell you, I understand that it's not my house. At some point, Reddit could absolutely sweep in and get rid of me. I also know that the 152,000 people that are there aren't there for me. They're there for the community, right? So,
well, yeah. I mean, you have a great point that so much of even just Google search results, if I'm looking for an answer to a question, it's a very high likelihood that it's going to direct me to a Reddit thread, right? And I don't really care who made the thread.
The SEO. Yeah, that's the problem. I can say from a business perspective, I'll post things and people will reference it 3 years, 5 years, 7 years later.
Wow.
Discord doesn't have any convention for that.
No, not at all.
Which is one of the reasons, there's so many answers and questions answered by Stack Exchange, right? How do I change my light bulb? And then 15 answers of only an idiot would change their light bulb. And then finally somebody says, twist it, right? And that's the internet. That's the rules of the internet. But, at the end of the day, I can't say I've ever left a platform. I've had personal opinions on things. I can't say I've ever left a platform because of something like this, because of API changes and my third-party apps are not going to work. I just use the crappy Reddit app. It is what it is.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like there's a huge number of people that this is going to alter the way that they use the internet. I mean, Reddit is unique in that, if I'm looking for an answer for something that's in a Facebook group, it's not really going to show up on search results the way Reddit stuff does. Discord, not like you said, not even close. You're never going to find any information on the internet unless you're already in the Discord and you know which channels to go in. So I don't really see how it can replace what Reddit has done for so many communities. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I'd love to see what the MSPs say. So if you have an opinion on this, share it in the comments, hit us up on Discord. We definitely love to hear from you. I'm just not seeing people up and leave. But that's our time for this story. What do you say we get into some notables?
Let's get into the notables. In my first notable mention from VentureBeat by Carl Franzen, Google drops 2 new big AI announcements, a better Bard and a new NotebookLM service. Google has announced significant updates to its large language model product, Bard, and unveiled a new AI-powered note-taking service called Google NotebookLM. Bard now allows users to upload images for analysis and has expanded its global availability with user prompts in 40 languages. Bard's new modes include simple, long, short, professional, or casual responses, and its productivity features allow users to pin and rename conversations, export Python code, share responses, and use images in their prompts. Google Lens integration enables Bard to analyze uploaded images. Meanwhile, Google's NotebookLM aims to reinvent note-taking by automatically analyzing and finding connections among notes and documents and providing a clear summary. Users can ask questions about their notes in a conversational style, and the AI can also help create new content. This service is currently available in the US on a waitlist basis. In my second notable mention from TechCrunch by Sarah Perez, Instagram Threads now has 1/5 the weekly active user base of Twitter. Instagram's Threads app has reached over 100 million users within days of its launch and has accumulated over 150 million downloads, according to data from app intelligence firm Data.ai. This growth rate is 5.5 times faster than Pokemon Go, which held the record for the largest app launch since its debut in 2016. Threads has also reached 1/5 of Twitter's global weekly active user base and 86 times that of Truth Social, a Twitter competitor in the US. Despite an initial dip in daily active users and time spent, momentum for Threads remains strong. Data.ai also reveals that India leads in app downloads at 33%, followed by Brazil, the US, Mexico, and Japan. However, Threads is currently unavailable in the EU due to data collection and privacy concerns.
In my first notable mention, White House fills details of national cybersecurity strategy, written by Jai Vijayan for Dark Reading. The Biden administration has released National Cybersecurity Strategy Implementation Plan, otherwise known as NCSIP, which outlines initiatives to fortify U.S. critical infrastructure and establish software liability and combat threat actors. Despite concerns about funding and bipartisan support, the plan prioritizes the defense of critical infrastructure, the shaping of market forces, resilience investment, and international partnerships. It includes strategies such as implementing cybersecurity requirements, developing a software liability framework, and countering healthcare sector ransomware. While some experts express doubts about the plan's lack of coordinated enforcement and ambitious timelines, it nevertheless addresses vital aspects of critical infrastructure security and the escalating risks of ransomware. In my second notable mention, Windows 11 23H2 coming this fall as a small enablement package, written by Sergio Gatlan of Bleeping Computer. Microsoft has announced that Windows 11 version 23H2 will be released in Q4 2023 as an enablement package. The package will bring fixes and improvements to systems running Windows 11 22H2 through monthly quality updates. To ensure a smoother upgrade process, the users are advised to switch to Windows 11 22H2 before the release of 23H2. Once upgraded, the 23H2 enablement package will activate new features including Windows Copilot AI Assistant, native support for RGB lighting controls, and a modernized file explorer. It is important to note that while these features are expected, not all of them may be ready at the time Windows 11 23H2 is released. And our resource of the week, Huntress will be hosting a panel on maximizing vendor relationships on Thursday, July 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Guest presenters will be Arlen Sorensen, Nate Freeman, President of Network People, and yours truly. The webinar will cover how to stay up to date with your vendors. Yes, they email you when there's a new product or feature and it goes into that special folder, maybe file 13. But being able to take those vendors from vendor relationships to partner relationships can have a significant impact on your business. During the webinar, we'll talk about exactly how to do that, how to identify the best vendors, and how to engage success in your businesses. The registration link for this will be in the show notes below.
There are plenty of amazing upcoming events taking place across the community, so let's see what's happening this week. Tomorrow, July 19th, an in-person event, IoT Security Service Association Cybersecurity Expo in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And on the 20th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, Channel Engage, Compliance, and Cyber Insurance. And also on the 20th, another in-person event, the MSP Revenue Generator in Parsippany, New Jersey. And coming from the MSP Media Network this week, we have, later today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, another episode of PitchIT Vendor Spotlight featuring thread and compliance risk. And even later today at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the debut episode of Wins and Losses featuring Ray Orsini and Jason Slagle. And as always on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, MSP Dispatch presented by the MSP Media Network.
Hey, I'm Powerhouse Ray.
And I'm Super Cousin Danny.
And we're the hosts of
The Tech Bar.
Pull up a stool with us every other Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern for drinks, jokes, and games with your friends in the MSP channel. So how'd you like today's show? If you liked it, hit the thumbs up button. If you didn't, go ahead and go to ChatGPT and tell them to do it 3 or 5 times for you. And if you want to hear more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on the YouTubes or your favorite podcatcher. Did you know we also have a Discord where we post stories all week? You can propose your own stories and even vote on which ones we'll cover. As my friend Rich Mankey says, make sure to tell a friend. Also, be sure to follow us on social media at MSP Media TV. Have any questions? Email news@mspmedia.tv for answers on the next episode, or leave us a voicemail, 833-MSP Network. All right, Phil, congratulations. You are the Michael Jordan of MSP Dispatch.
Wow.
You hit the Triple Crown, which is a hockey thing, or a horse racing thing. How do you feel, man?
Oh, I feel great. Not only did I finally get to guest with you, Ray, which is I've just been waiting. I've been ready, and here it is. But I'm just a few hours from hitting my vacation for like a whole week. So I'm feeling fantastic myself.
I mean, I don't mean to. We talked about the Illinois school district that may or may not have been resetting passwords from watching MSP Dispatch. We've talked about CISA and how they've enacted stuff that we've talked about on Dispatch. So I'm going to go ahead and take the credit and say your vacation will be significantly better knowing that you've walked out with a hack trick, that you've hit all 3 hosts in your career, in very short career here. Not bad.
Yeah,
So,
just about a year. I mean, I got all 3. I mean, I might be the most as far as guest co-host goes. I might be the best one at this point.
yeah. I mean, that's why you keep coming back, right? It has nothing to do with that you work here. So
Yeah, I got to watch out for Jason Slagle and Tom Lawrence after putting something like that out there. They might challenge me next time I run into them online or at a conference maybe.
Actually, speaking of Jason Slagle, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have the very first episode of Wins and Losses where Jason Slagle and myself talk about our weight loss journey and our journey to getting fit. And we're going to be overly transparent and overly communicative, but it'll be for a fun ride, and hopefully we can all learn some stuff together. So again, that link will be in the show notes as well, right at the youtube.com/MSP Media Network. Ooh, right there. Or shit, right there. There you go. So I think you had it right the first time. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves and each other.
Take care, y'all.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.
Power apps. Oh, wow, that was horrible.
In our second story today from the business segment of the show. No, let me try that again.
The Biden administration has released the National Cybersecurity Strategy Implementation Plan, or NCSIP, which outlines... let me start from the top.